joining us from Washington, Mr. Jim Townsend, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and from Kiev, Mr. Ivan US, advisor at Ukrainian National Center. A very warm welcome to both our distinguished guests. Mr. Townsend, with Special Envoy Witkoff reported attendance being uncertain, how does the White House intend to re-engage and project credibility without direct high-level commitment in Ankara? Is Washington truly re-engaging or just sending mixed signals?
Well, the president is re-engaging with Witkoff, it sounds like, in terms of working behind the scenes, developing some type of peace proposal that looks similar to what...
Sorry, sir, to interrupt you here. You said the president is re-engaging with sending Witkoff. The question was, Witkoff's visit is uncertain.
That's right. His visit to Ankara is uncertain because the trip that Zelensky is doing is something that he has hatched in Kyiv to continue to get support from Southern Europe. So the trip to Ankara is part of that. It wouldn't make sense really for Witkoff to be part of Zelensky's road trip through Southern Europe. Witkoff is working with Russia behind the scenes, putting together this plan. So if Witkoff does show up in Ankara, it might be to explain parts of this plan to Erdogan or to Zelensky. But I think right now what they want to do in Washington is to work privately and quietly behind the scenes with Russian counterparts while Zelensky does his more public tour of Southern Europe.
Mr. US, after 10 civilians killed in Ternopil, what message does Zelensky send by choosing talks over retaliation? Will Ukraine's new proposals in Ankara fundamentally address the elephant in the room, achieving a ceasefire without conceding Russian-occupied territory?
Greetings to you, Rana. Greetings to Mr. Townsend, and of course, greetings to all Qnews audience. You know, Rana, first of all, according to last information, 25 persons reported to be murdered in today's attack on city of Chernobyl, 73 persons wounded. So I think that every time when we coming close to some peace agreement, we received another crime committed by Russia, like it happened.
Sir, what crime is committed by Russia now as we talk?
Yes, but what I want to say that, of course, that's created the phone. I mean, 25 persons murdered by Russian direct rocket attack on the residential building. And of course, it's not something that could give a fruit field for a discussion about the peace deal, because society will not understand President Zelensky if he now starts those talks. So at least I understand that there will be talks in Ankara during meeting between President Zelensky and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, plus quite possible that it will be a representative of the United States of America. We know that it will be not Steve Witkoff. He was expected on this meeting. Nevertheless, I think that some representatives will be, as Pentagon representatives now present in Kyiv and discussing future events with Ukrainian...
Mr. Ivan, how do you read the situation in the absence of Steve Witkoff, and how do you read it in his presence?
You know, I think that for last several weeks or even last month, there was a feeling that Trump envoy, special Trump envoy Steve Witkoff, was not the main person on the track of the negotiation between US and Russia, and of course about the war between Russia and Ukraine. And even the meeting that failed, meeting between the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, in Budapest failed because the person who was responsible for this meeting was not Steve Witkoff, it was Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio made a call to That's why Marco Rubio
do you
said, I
read,
don't
sir,
think.
that although President Zelensky is trying his best to bridge and not retaliate and for peace and is seeking peace, whereas the United States and Russia are backing off at this point?
So I think that at least Ukraine says that this discussion should be, but it should not be discussion based on the idea of capitulation of Ukraine, because the Russian proposition, and it still remains, that Ukraine should capitulate, that Ukraine should give to Russia the land that Russia failed to annex, actually, first of all, in Donbass. And Ukrainian proposition remain, as Donald Trump said, a freezing of the war. So if we can freeze the war on the place where we now stand, both Russia and Ukraine, that could create background of talks. Because when you have talks during the war, it will never give result. Today, as I said, 25% was murdered in Chernobyl, and of course, it's not the phone that can give fruitful discussion of the peace, because people said that no, we need revenge. We don't need those talks. That's why I think that that will be used by President Zelensky as an argument. Say that you see that if someone expected that Russia need peace, we see that Russia murdering civilians in their residential buildings, and that's Russian response, that they don't need peace. Thank you, Rana.
Mr. Townsend, do you want to comment on Mr. Asa's what he said, or it's okay, we move on with the program?
Let's move on with the program. I think
Okay,
he
there's
said
the reported secret U.S. 20 NATO's united front and sidelining vital European allies. Is this the reason? And can a back-channel peace plan crafted with Russia succeed without Congress or NATO on board?
Well, it is not unusual for these kinds of plans to begin to be done in secret. It's hard to do.
So you're against it, sir?
Well, no, I think this is the appropriate process. If you want to have a plan that has any chance of success, the early drafting of those kinds of peace plans have to be done quietly with stakeholders that include Europe, that can participate quietly. So does Ukraine, and so does Russia, as mediators try to put together something that all the parties can live with.
There should be transparency.
Well, and I think when all the sides are ready for transparency, in other words, for a draft to be put on the table in public, that'll happen. But it's difficult, if not impossible, to put together a draft peace plan with all the world looking on and not understanding the discussions that are happening behind the scenes. You have to start this way, but eventually it becomes transparent when there's something on a piece of paper that all the sides can discuss, and do that publicly as well.
Mr. Ross, with Russia officially absent, what tangible non-humanitarian outcomes can President Zelensky realistically expect from Turkey that justify the high diplomatic gamble? Can Erdogan pressure Putin when even direct talks have failed? What leverage does Ankara really hold, sir?
You know, Rana, of course, Turkey has a big influence on the situation, because when more than 2 years ago, I was in Ankara and have a meeting with the former Turkey representative in NATO, he said to me such phrase that, you know, that as that moment, Turkey has two war with Russia. One war in Syria, the second in Libya. As of now, we know that in Syria, Turkey wins this war against Russia, and in Libya, it's still in process. But what I want to say that for Ukraine, it's very important to see Turkey together with Ukraine. Yes, on the one hand, Turkey constantly repeat phrases about the peace agreement, possibility of peace. But on the other hand, I don't think that even Turkey see possibility of this peace. And furthermore, Turkey countries that on the one hand have neutrality, on the other, as in Ukraine we joke, that is pro-Ukrainian neutrality, because Recep Tayyip Erdogan constantly repeat the phrase that he supports territorial integrity of Ukraine, including Peninsula Crimea. It's a very important moment because for Russia, the main moment is Crimea, and Turkey said that no, we don't want to see Crimea in Russian hands. So that's why I think that it will be, of course, unofficially, but it will be ideas of organizing pressure on Russia about returning of not only annexed territory since 2022 of full-scale war, but since 2014 too. I mean, Crimea, because for Turkey it's not the best idea and not the best scenario when Russia will be too strong on the Black Sea region. Turkey needs to have a balance, and the balance was before annexing Crimea. So I think that President Zelensky and President Erdogan will discuss the common steps in supporting of Ukrainian pressure on Russia for make such a concession to say that Russia returns those territories. We understand that it's very hard.
Sir, do
But we
you see and read any progress that will take place in this process, entire process?
You know, Rana, I don't expect something serious except probably another exchange of the prisoners of war. Traditionally, all meetings in Istanbul finished by the exchange of the prisoners of war. So Ukraine could be there, and I mean now in Turkey, and discuss the pressure on Russia from Turkey side and partner side, first of all, from countries that organized that exchange of prisoners, like the United Arab Emirates, that the next exchange took place, because that is that result could be achieved. That's why Ukraine needed, and I think that Turkey and our partners so think that it will be nice, at least if you receive the exchange of prisoners of war. As for any other results, Rana, sorry, I didn't expect them.
Mr. Townsend, are ATACMS strikes into Russia a necessary deterrent or a dangerous escalation that undermines diplomacy at this point?
The use of ATACMS?
Yeah, ATACMS, sir.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that we have to do to put pressure on Putin to come to the table. Right now, he feels no pressure, no pain at all if he stays in the Kremlin and lets the fighting continue. He doesn't feel the need to sit at the table and to begin to talk seriously with Ukraine about some type of ceasefire or a larger plan. So while these talks are happening in Ankara, while the secret quiet talks are happening behind the scenes between the U.S. and Moscow, the pressure has to be kept up on Putin. Putin has to know that neither the U.S. nor Ukraine nor Europe are backing off from their demands that Putin come to the table. For him to come to the table, he's got to feel pressured to do so.
And sir, he doesn't have any intention. He doesn't have any thoughts that there is pressure. And I think that Putin is far away from everything that's taking place. Even U.S. President Donald Trump was not able to reach a resolution or a consentment with the Russian president. How do you read this?
Well, I think Putin is playing the type of game that one plays when they feel they have all the time to wait. They feel that they are doing well on the battlefield and feel that ultimately they will win on the battlefield. He's at a place where he feels Ukraine is weaker and that Ukraine will fold. That's what Putin thinks. And he also thinks that the United States is not going to be there in the long term for Ukraine, and he thinks that Europe also will fold.
But that is what took place, sir. The United States gave up on Ukraine as an ally, and then it became an ally again, and it's helping Ukraine. Plus, there are thousands of lives that are dying every day, sir. Plus, what did U.S. President, when he said in his campaign, I'll finish this war in 24 hours, what were the bases of this quote?
Well, I think first of all, when the president said he was going to finish off this war in 24 hours of negotiations with Putin and Zelensky,
We're approaching a
uh,
year now, sir.
yes, and when he said that in the campaign, he had no idea of how complex things were. He understands that now, and he's having to adjust himself to long-term negotiations that require a lot of his time. So that is something that he's got to deal with. Putin also felt that it was going to be very easy to invade Ukraine and take Kyiv very quickly, and he found that that's not going to work either. That he is in for a long war, and as far as the casualties that he is experiencing on the battlefield, the numbers of Russians killed, that does not bother him. That this is something that in the Kremlin they're not focused on deaths on the battlefield. They're focusing only on how quickly they can ratchet up pressure on Kyiv to have Kyiv capitulate and to try to show the United States and Europe that their assistance efforts to Ukraine are to no avail. Putin is going to be very surprised that perception of the United States or Europe or the battlefield in Ukraine, that perception is wrong. And
It
so,
is wrong, sir, and it is on the ground. It's already very obvious that it's wrong. So when will we end this?
we will end this only when Putin realizes that he has no choice but to begin talks, whether
Negotiation.
to a negotiation in
When will he
earnest,
realize, sir?
a sincere negotiation. And as if we use ATACMS, as you point out, if we use ATACMS on Russian facilities deep into Russia, and the other attacks that Zelensky is using against Russian energy, and the sanctions that the U.S. and that European allies are putting on all the various elements of the Russian economy, so there's money is not there to run this war. These are the pressure points that eventually will have to be enough pain on Putin himself that he will at least begin negotiations. But we're not close to that yet. And so using ATACMS, as well as the assistance that the French and others are providing to Ukraine and the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers that are also fighting every day, and many are dying. This is going to have to continue until Putin feels the pressure to come to the table and to try to see what deal he can get out of the negotiations with Ukraine.
Let's see, sir, after Putin is weakened and sanctions, he feels that he's not on stable grounds like he thinks he is. What will go on, hopefully, and this war ends, Mr. Us. With corruption scandals weakening trust, how can Ukraine maintain Western military support? How is the ongoing military procurement scandal impacting Washington's trust and the willingness of the US to provide the massive financial support Europe is currently being asked to carry?
You know, Rana, of course, corruption scandal make enormous problem to Ukraine because it's always question how to explain both to our partners, the United States of America, the European countries that please be with us, support us, how to talk with Ukrainian people, Ukrainian companies who donate on this question on support of Ukraine, and parallel we see this corruption scandal. So of course, Ukraine, we recognize that we have this problem. According to Transparency International, of 180 countries, we are the 105th position in the world. So we are not the most corruptive country in the world, but we are not at the top 100 of the non-corruptive countries. But unfortunately, it's reality. I always repeat that corruption exists in every country in the world. The best country which has no practically corruption is Denmark, according to Transparency International, received 90 of 100 points. It means that even corruption in Denmark exists. In Ukraine, unfortunately, the situation harder. We have only 35 points of 100, so as I said, 105th place. Nevertheless, I don't don't think that corruption is a reason not to help, because as yesterday I discussed with our colleagues from Atlantic Council, that corruption is a problem of every country in the world. And the main question whether you recognize this problem or you try not to recognize it. It's very bad when you're not recognized. And today, Ukraine fired 2 ministers engaged in this scandal. And I think it's a very good idea, because it helped to us to defend at least our position in the eyes of the United States of America and Europe, when we say that, you know, if the scandals really starts, we are not closing guys, we are firing people who actually engage in the scandal, and there, of course, will be investigation. What actual losses Ukraine received due to the activity of all those persons. Thank you, Rana.
We wait and see how it goes, and hope this war ends as soon as possible. It's been moving on to 3 years now. That was Mr. Jim Townsend, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and Mr. Ivan Os, advisor at Ukrainian National Center. Thank you both for your special insights and your valuable discussion.